Hi. You'd think I'd figure this out and get it right on cue sometime. But anyway, welcome to the last class. We're having a wine and cheese party in here. Not really, because it's illegal. But it's been a great class. I was just throwing kudos at them, telling them how much I appreciate them putting all this together for you people who are watching it on, I guess, DVD or video, either one. And whether you bought the video or are watching it in the library, I hope these 19 classes have been useful, informative, inspirational, maybe changed your mind about who you are and perhaps who other people are that you know and don't know. That's sort of been my intent, is to sort of change your life and change your mind about some things, as well as inform you about some things. Like, why should we get together if we don't come out a little bit different because we stopped and reflected on some ideas and concepts? Otherwise, to me, it would be a waste of time. Okay, a couple of things. Those of you that I've already told everybody here, when you come for your exam, and those of you watching on the videos, bring your extra credits. And as I've said, 3 extra credits will move you up a notch from A- to an A, a B+ to an A-. And 3 extra credits can be lots of stuff we've covered. In fact, I was talking to somebody after last class. A great extra credit is to write 3 people you don't like, what you don't like about them, 3 characteristics, and then how those you found in yourself. Takes a little reflection. That's what this class is about, is you got to reflect a little bit and go, oh my gosh, the reason I hate that person, and it may be ignorance, that you just can't stand ignorance. Well, have you recognized your own ignorance? And that can be a motivation for study and learning. I mean, ignorance is one of the great gifts of life because it forces us to keep learning and growing. But that'd be 3 negative projections, and then 3 positive projections would be 3 people, or it could be movie characters or something that you do like and admire. And then what do you like about each of those persons? Could be a relative. And that characteristics, you wouldn't like it in them if you didn't have it in yourself. Not that you're going to, be a big bodybuilder like I am. I used to be 6'2", 250, and somebody punched me with a pen and I shrunk. But it does mean that there's a hero in you, and there's a star in you, and there's a gifted, talented, creative person in you. That's often why we idolize these movie stars and idolize our heroes, is because there's a hero within. And the key is to be on your own journey, living out your own drama. It helps, I think, sometimes. I tell my clients this in my counseling practice, to see yourself sitting in an audience and then watch your life on stage. Consider yourself, it's called, actually the Greeks said this was a sign of higher consciousness, the ability to be subject and object of life. So you're standing outside yourself and you're watching yourself. And you say, well, who is this person, and what has he or she grown and experienced in her culture and her emotional issues with authority figures, and who has she become or he become, and kind of have a sense of who you are. It's like writing your own autobiography. And to see yourself in that way is a form of higher consciousness, is to say, and then when events happen in your life, you sort of say, well, I wonder how I'm going to handle this now. Of course, people sitting in the stage can't wait for the drama. When somebody does something unpredictable, say, breaking from a stereotype, breaking from an automatic plan, a way of functioning. And that's the gift of consciousness, is you have choices. You're not stuck with just repeating this script that has been planned for you by parents, your religion, your culture, where in a sense puts you in a box. The goal is to use all of that to have a creative life and a creative drama. And I think there's nothing perhaps that affirms that more than looking at cultural psychology. Okay, so bring your extra credit to the exam, and I'm going to go over the exam again real briefly.
Can we turn it in today after class if we want?
Yes, you can, if you want to today. Does anybody have any questions about the exam? Will be 9 questions. You already have 8. I'll give you the 9th after our presentations today. And then this stuff on stereotypes is really kind of neat, very neat. Okay, so let me just go over what's on the exam again. I'll go through this fast. There are 9 questions, and I actually have had them hermetically sealed in a mayonnaise jar in my house for several weeks, crunkled up. So here's the test. See it? Oh, does it not? See it? Okay, now we've been over the test. Next, what I'd like to do, it's supposed to be a joke. See the test? Ta-da! So it's just going to be just like this. And the first question is masculine and feminine archetypes abound in culture. What are 4 adjectives describing each one and an example in ethnic, race, or national group? Ta-da! These energies. And remember, all cultures and all individuals have both of these energies within them. And the goal in life is to acknowledge, is to become aware of it. And if you grow up in a culture that's very masculine with hierarchy and patriarchy and aggression and competition, and you are like Ferdinand that likes to smell the rose, or pick the flowers in right field, if you're a soul person, you're going to say, you're going to be clashing with that culture. If you grew up in a family, your parents are very high achievers, but they don't know how to sit and enjoy a sunset, they're going to see you lazy and incompetent, when in fact it may just be your feminine soul energy coming out. You see what I'm saying? And those of us who are therapists and teachers to a large degree are, we have a lot of soul energy. I didn't even put the word soul here. A soul would be another word for feminine, and spirit would be a word for masculine. You'll see that in literature. Spirit and soul. So anyway, I'm just asking for 4 of those. And what I want you to do is be aware of these energies and how they roam around in our life. And here's what it is. In the second half of life, which is not chronological as much as it is psychological, life will push you to deal with the other side. In other words, if you have lots of heart, receptive, feminine energy, you're going to have to learn to take care of yourself and not just let this would be a woman, for example, let some man do it. You have to stand on your own feet a bit. And if you like to be in charge and run everything, you're going to have to learn to let go and relate, not always be in control. So you'll see these energies moving, and we see them we talked about some of the feminine cultures and masculine cultures, so I won't go over that. Then the next question is on what's the difference between fate and destiny? And I generically put life's givens, the cards were dealt, things you have no choice about, and examples of that, of course, are many things, including race, family, name, culture, ethnic situation. So much of life are the cards were dealt. And then destiny is really how you play them. And you can't change your fate, but you can change your destiny. And you might say, I found this quote that said, I want to gracefully cooperate. What did it say? It said, gracefully cooperate with the inevitable. And I thought, see, there's still, that's kind of fate, isn't it, a little bit? You can't control it. There's a dance between fate and destiny. I forget who said this. I heard him on a show the other night on TV. He says, I hope to gracefully cooperate with, what did I say? The inevitable. Thank you, Andy. And there's a lot of truth to that, isn't it? I've seen couples whose marriages just seem to fail. They're not going to work. They're just not going to work. And they end up splitting up. And you get a sense of this was inevitable, that they came together and then it split up. Sad that it is. I've seen both couples grow and mature and kids change. And often people have a hard time just cooperating with, this thing's going down. What are you going to do with it? You can't bend the river sometimes. And that's not to say you don't fight for it and work on it, but fate and destiny. Destiny, of course, is education, career choice, attitudes, beliefs, knowledge. Actually, destiny is choices throughout the way. And it takes courage. If you choose to be a conscious human being and make something of your life, it takes courage, corazon, heart, much heart to do that. Then the next question, I think, we were looking at this with the gay issue is, this may be true in a lot of things, how different religious views of homosexuality. And is this what you wanted to talk about, was it? This first one is rejecting punitive view, and you have all this in your notes. The rejecting non-punitive. Actually, it's not just homosexuality. People have these religious views for sex, period, just sex or drinking or certain things that we have far, and these are just different views, and I'm trying to speak to that we're all different places. Then the third one is qualified acceptance view, which in our case of homosexuality was that it's wrong, but people can't change, so they must clean up their act, as it were. This view would say, but they're accepted. Or refrain, one must stay in a committed relationship, that view. And then the last one was a view of full acceptance, as just seeing that sexuality is important to human love, and that people choose same sex out of their own choice, DNA, experience, and that they deserve full religious blessing and the acceptance of civil rights as well. Those are those four views. I had several of y'all say how you thought that was interesting, just to acknowledge these different views. And some of us over time will move from one view to the next. The next question is on biculturality, which was that article on homosexuality, but it could be in anything. List and describe. First I say is define what it is, and it's identification and cultural differences. Cultural identification, cultural differences without one culture being superior to another. You identify with two cultures, and both are different, but neither one's superior. And the article did about homosexuality, but of course it's true for religion or many ethnic situations. And then along with that question is list and describe 4 factors that determine success. Living in 2 or more cultures. I think there were 6. There wasn't there, maybe? Were there 6? And experiences. Excuse me, this is part of the answer. Part of the definition. Experiences in minority culture and comprehensive exposure, adaptation within the majority culture. And then the 6 factors. Oh, that was cute. Hold on. Don't go away. Don't touch that dial. 6 factors were cultural overlap to the degree that they're similar or very different. Cultural translators, mediators, and models. Corrective feedback. And see, what I say on the exam is what are 4 factors, list and describe them. I mean, don't just say cultural corrective feedback. Just say what that is. It's positive and negative feedback from a mentor in finding group norms and stuff. Or it's just help, feedback from it. And the problem-solving skills is another one. Is to agree whether you have them. It requires good ego strength to do that, and often outside help is needed. And language skills. Sometimes subcultures speak different languages. It's vocabulary, speech patterns, accents. And then appearance is the use of dress. May enhance or inhibit bicultural socialization process. And several of my other class on cultural psych, we were talking about the Muslim hijab, is that it? And about how some of the women in high school just really wrestled with this and decided not to wear it because they were teased and mocked at their high school. And other ones said, well, this is who I am and I'm going to go ahead and do this. But that kind of gave me a real, in the class, a real awareness of how that could be a problem. Okay? And then Westerhoff, 4 stages of faith development. Seems like we looked a lot at that, religious issues, this second half. By the way, we had that presentation on the Islam was so great. I really want to get a tape of that song y'all played. It was really good. I guess it's on this tape, isn't it? Stages of faith development is experienced faith, imitating the actions and rituals, what do we do? And then affiliative faith, that's childhood. Then affiliative faith is belonging to a group, affiliation, connectedness, friends and family. What does a group believe? We're encouraged by that. And then the last two were searching faith. This is often late adolescence and midlife, is doubts and questions, no blind allegiance. And actually, this is where the head is added to the heart, or to the experience, where we seeking certainty, and we either go in a direction of non-belief or into a deeper belief. And sometimes the non-belief will come back in midlife. I see lots of people in their 30s, 40s, 50s who start searching to be connected to something greater than their ego. And it's often interesting to see changes happen. And then owned faith is, what do I believe after exploring doubts, faith, paradoxes, and ironies. I mean, paradoxes and ironies and metaphors, actually it's right, and symbols, and metaphor. This is really the language of owned faith. It's not such a rigidity as it is a meaning thing, and vital, intimate connection with the divine. So that's pretty easy. Any questions on that? And again, you don't have to answer but 8 of these questions. You don't even have to answer 8 of them. You can answer 2 of them if you want to. You won't get any credit, but you can. And then quickly, and this was, I said, the next question was, if the ego is the center of our conscious world, what is the self? So define the self and list 5 ways we encounter the self in our human personality. And so the self is that which creates, generates, and integrates life. It's the great promoter of wholeness, nature's intent, the higher self. You can use, 3 or 4 of these words or concepts. The guiding force, God, the mystery, the source of life. And remember, what I'm doing here is I'm not proselyting. I'm just trying to honor that there's something else that's working within us, and everybody experiences it. Everybody does. You can say, well, I don't believe in all that stuff, but if you say, good luck on the exam, well, what is luck? You just called forth the metaphysical energy. Gee, I haven't had an accident. Knock on wood. What are you doing that for? Because you're trying to call forth something the ego can't control. So we use this all the time in our ways where I was with somebody early this morning, and we were actually in a court thing, and I was a witness for someone. And we were sitting there with our fingers crossed, hoping the judge would lean in the direction we wanted, this client. And so what is that about? Cross fingers. I'm calling on metaphysical powers. See? You'll see baseball players, notice your hat on backwards. At the last inning, when you're 2 runs behind, the bases are loaded, everybody puts their rally cap on. Well, what are they doing? They're trying to jinx, bring the magic. All that's that connection with self. That there's some other force that might work here. Rabbit's foot. Rub the bottle, get the genie out, whatever. So these things are something that are in all of human experience. And I think analytical psychologists acknowledges and looks at it and say, this is a huge part of determining behavior, so it's a construct worth just describing. Anyway, that was the self, and then 5 ways we encounter the self, whereas in this mystery, this other is in fairy tales, synchronicities, our interests, spontaneous energies we have, things that take us deeper, things that resonate, our dreams, sacred stories, our religious language, our religious experiences, all that help us connect. Projections, our ahas and oh heck experiences, oh shoot. Nature connects us, agonies of life and ecstasies of life take us into something greater than the ego in these numinous experiences. So in this thing, I'm just asking for 5 of those, and I don't know how many I have there. Things that humble us. I was training for the MS one, 52 months training, and my back went out actually Wednesday or Thursday. And the surgeon, or my physician, who's also a woman who's a triathlete herself, she said, I would violate the Hippocratic Oath if I told you to get on that bicycle. She says, you got problems, and you can't ride. And I said, can't you give me some cortisone? And she goes, you can't ride. Well, that experience just there's 30 of us on our group team that rode, and so it kind of set me back. Yeah, it did sort of take me to my knees, literally at times, because there was such pain. And but I went up and, met the group for different meals and spent the night on the ground, which I shouldn't have Saturday, and had more pain. But experiences like that make you realize what? You're not in charge of everything. You some things you just have to yield to and walk through, and that would be ways we encounter the mystery. And yeah, I did lots of praying, like, come on. You wake up in the morning with a bad back, and when you don't move, it doesn't hurt. You know that experience? And you go, I've had a healing. It's been healed. And then you roll out of bed, and you can't stand up straight. And you go, well, it's just going to heal in its own time. But anyway, that's relatively easy, I hope. Question. The next one is... what are ways egocentric living is not enough. We must live and relate with the deeper self. Live 5 ways the self manifests over the nervous ego. And that is this deepest part of us, it's positive and fulfilling. You know what ended up happening? My soon-to-be daughter-in-law and I ended up going up together and met the group at Belleville, and then she spent the night with my son was on the group. And I ended up having a neat time. And my ego was so angry and frustrated that I didn't do it, but actually the mystery had something else in mind. And I wouldn't have traded our time of being together and getting to know each other. You see what I'm saying? How you don't always get what you want? Who said that? Mick Jagger. No, but you get what you need. I'm way too old for y'all. Okay, the self lives creatively by making the world a work of art. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? I should have put more space between that. That's of art. Of space art. Yo. Well, see, that's good. See, that's called the trickster archetype. That's part of the self, too, the mystery. Keeps us from taking ourselves too seriously. You better learn to laugh. The self yearns to be lived out with passion. There's an inner hunger, unused talents, courage, love, potentialities yearn to come out. If you limit your life to the ego, you're going to miss so much. And then the self, this other, has intensity, significance, color, crises, tragedies, and difficulties seem to bring out the best. And I think I asked for 5 ways. The self, the inner world, cannot be cut off, predicted, formalized. It's full of surprises. And then the self is within all relationships and experiences. It's a capacity to love others for who they are and not who we want them to be. I'm telling you, you can't appreciate the diversity of the human race and of human experience without deep connection with something greater than the ego. It's just not all about me and my world, is it? And I tell you, one of the things that remember we did that paper on white knapsack? Remember that white knapsack article we did? Didn't we do one? Please, somebody nod your head. Yes, thank you. So when I first read that and looked at that, it really helped me a lot. Being a white male and all that stuff. Seeing things that I just always take for granted, that I know other folks don't necessarily have those kind of privileges. And a hubris slips in when you're a majority and male and all this stuff in this culture, where you begin to think you're important and other people aren't. And life comes along. The self will remind you that to stay in that narrow, egocentric path, you'll miss life's richness. Anyway, so that was that answer. And then the next one was on projection. And what is projection? It's just the transferal of our unconscious contents onto another person or object. And it's either positive or negative. This is part of the definition. What is projection? It's either, and again, I put a lot here, but you don't have to say all of that. Just, it's a transfer of unconscious contents onto another person or object. And negatively, we get rid of things we don't like, our discomforts. And positively, we transfer our talents and strengths to other people. I've been over this over and over in the class, and because I think that's one of the ways we leave growing and learning. That's the definition of it. And then what are 4 reasons we should recognize our projections? First is it creates compassion. And I know y'all are going to have to do little acronyms to memorize this, but it creates compassions for others. It gives us empathy. Either pain or joy I can feel with others. You can imagine much of my team was just so saddened by not being with them, because we've been riding for a long time, doing a lot of crazy things. And they were saddened until we got to LaGrange, and then they were so tired, everybody got self-centered, right? It's like, no, actually, when the group got up to leave Sunday morning, 2 people turned and said, Herb, it's just not right you're not with us. See? And that's empathy. That's projection. That's, hey, what if my back had gone out? I'd be standing there not riding. See? And that's how wonderful projection is. You can see life from other people's point of view. And that gives us compassion and empathy. The second reason we need to recognize our projections is it reduces negative separations and hostilities. When we believe our projections to be true, we get in a lot of trouble. We have to say, maybe this is about me and not about them. It creates isolation and paranoia. We condemn before we investigate. And then the third reason we need to look at our projections is it gives us constructive understanding that leads to wisdom. Our truths are only true for us. It's taken me years to accept that. Because I sometimes think my truth is the truth. I mean, it's just so subtle, isn't it? That I'm right and everybody else is wrong. If you don't think that's true, wait till you get married. Right, Stacy? She's back. She's waving her hand. She's married with 2 little twin boys. Yeah, you get married and you discover that people have different truths. Your spouse and your kids, and everybody has different truths. So learning our projections creates constructive understanding. It leads to wisdom. And then last is it gives us new energy, because I'm working on my own stuff. I bring back, it creates oneness and intellectual solidarity. In other words, I bring back my energy to me. I can stop being so mad that, for example, my mother's passed on, but that my mother is so narrow-minded, because I'm aware of my narrow-mindedness and I start working on my own. And going, gee, how come I can't accept narrow-minded people? See? And, for example, anything like that. When I bring the projection back, I've got work to do. Or if I'm so mad, other people are so smart and have advanced degrees, and I see people go through life complaining, well, I coulda, woulda, shoulda. Well, all you got to do is sign up and give it a shot. Remember, I'm 2.013 in general business from University of Texas. I barely got out. See? But when you say, I want to try to find my own gifts and talents, you start taking that risk, you do find new energy. Because remember, the self wants to come forth and express. It wants to express itself. So you bring back the energy to yourself when you pull it off other people. Stop looking at what's wrong with them and find out what's wrong with me and work on that. Okay? That was the deals. And I have one more, and the one more is going to be on stereotypes. Any questions on that? I hope you don't feel overwhelmed with all of that. I hope a lot of it is kind of practical stuff, and you can memorize it and give it back on the exam. Y'all have done a great job on your papers. Nora sent me an email the other day saying how she was, really pleased with what everybody's done, turning them in, writing and stuff. Any questions on that before we move on? Nope. Okay, and I'll give you one more in a second. But now we have, who was up for it today? I left the one. I left the one I needed. Yeah, y'all come on up here and do the presentation. We have 2 articles. One about. There. Wait. Is Jason up today? Oh, this is Tuesday, right? Okay, here it is. This is right. How do you pronounce it? What? Rokrinshanta? What does that mean?
It's divine.
Divine something? Hey, can you drag that little deal up here? And then Jason and Deo. She said divine, something like that. It's a beautiful name. What is it? Just right here, right here.
French name.
It's a French name? Oh, beautiful. It's wonderful. Hey, y'all give them a big hand, man. They've come a long way. Good.
The article I did is titled "Is Love Colorblind?" and it's basically talking over the triumph of true love as far as conveniences and prudences of that type. It goes to say about anti- and interracial marriages and laws of that sort, and most of it deals with black and white relationships, white and Asians. I mean, it mentions all interracial dating, but those are the ones it focuses on. It says that what's fascinating is that a number of non-whites, especially Asian men and black women, have become bitterly opposed to intermarriage. It shows that black women's resentment of intermarriage is now made an example of on daytime talk shows or different movies such as Waiting to Exhale and other movies. You normally see more black men with white women rather than white men and black women. And it says that you wouldn't expect that because normally black women encounter white men more as far as work environments and offices, and many black men aren't here. It says that many are literally locked out of marriage market by being locked up in jail, and maybe twice the number of those men are on parole. So it's saying that there's more black women than black men. So you would think that black women would find white men. And then it also talks about the Jim Crow laws, which were to prohibit white women and black men. Many white people made that law to keep the two apart, and they wanted to retard black men and oppress them or whatever so that they would be less attractive to white women. But I mean, that really didn't work. And then it says that like black men start showing themselves more as far as in the Olympics. They would be the competitors in most of the events, and they were portrayed as masculine and everything else. So it says that black men are more masculine, and then you see Asian women that are more feminine. That's basically it. What I wanted to know, I asked a few people about how they felt about interracial dating, and it so varies. You have people that are for it, and you have people that are against it. For the most part, more of the people I asked were against it. I wanted to know how you all feel about it.
Personally, I'm all for it. I mean, think about it. If you had everybody the same race marrying everybody the same race, it's boring. You don't have no mixing of the cultures. Everyone stays the same. It's just boring. So, I don't know. I'm all for it.
Do you feel that interracial dating complicates anything anywhere along the way, as far as maybe the children having to go through not fitting in, or just the different things that?
Yeah, I've seen that in school. For example, I had a friend who was half Pakistani, and then he was half Mexican. So there were some sort of things the kids would say about him, or weird mix, But who cares, I mean, my whole thing on race is I only think there's one race, that's human race. So with that being said, I don't care who I marry. It can be whoever. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, it can be whoever. I really don't care. I'm all for it.
Yeah, but some of y'all couldn't get a date off the calendar.
So you're pretty desperate. I'm kidding. That's a joke. It's an old vaudeville joke. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Okay.
I'm for it because I myself am in a relationship where my boyfriend, he's half Pakistani, half white. And I think that's what creates diversity. And I don't see any problem with it. I mean, sure, the kids are going to have, they're going to come across comments and stuff like that. But that's just challenges that we all have to deal with.
I wanted to also ask, the article touches a lot on black women having a hard time with black men dating white women. I wanted to ask if a black female wanted to comment on that.
Why were the people opposed to interracial marriages? That's the people you asked.
For the most part, like, it complicates things as far as, I mean, they went in detail as, if you have kids, and what if you go through a divorce and then one side of the family doesn't accept the child, maybe because they're biracial, that type of thing. Some just thought that, races should stay within race. I mean, it was just different opinions. Yeah.
Actually, just to comment on that, as far as cultures that are very, we talked about collective cultures, they're very family-oriented, so, the in-laws have very much to do with the relationship between the spouses, and so when you have an interracial marriage, you often see a conflict between the in-laws and the two sides, and that creates a lot of tension because it's like, who do you owe allegiance to, your spouse or to your own family? So.
I know I'm cutting you off here, but how many in here would marry someone of a different race or ethnicity if you really loved them and they were brought together? Okay. And how many want to sort of stay in their own ballpark, as it were? Want to marry somebody of the same race or religion? Really? That's interesting. That's really interesting. Most classes, about a third want to stay in. You've done a great job. Thank you. Give a big hand. That's great. Sorry we had to stop so quickly. It's a great job. Great topic.
My name is Jason. I also wrote about Is Love Colorblind. She pretty much stated basically the overall picture, the overall summary of the essay. I just want to hit on a few other things. The essay basically talks about how Asian Americans and black women have become bitter opposed to interracial relationships. And the author states that the heart of the problem is that Asian men and black women is let me get this right. He was saying that the heart of the problem for Asian men and black women is that interrelationship does not treat every sex and race combination equally. Have said that, do y'all think that each relationship, as far as white Americans being with Asian American women, are treated the same as black men being with white women? Do y'all think they are treated the same as far as in relationship or in society? Anyone?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I think black and white relationships get more attention than just white and Asians. It's more, it's looked over more, but when you see a black and white couple, it gets more attention, I feel.
Okay.
I think it's also a Southern thing, isn't it? Has anybody been from New England? In New England, it's much more acceptable, interracial relatedness. Isn't that right? Anybody been from New England or California and stuff, huh? Is it different in New York? A little more?
There's a lot of cultural acceptance there that you don't see here in the South. But also here in the South, they have it's true Southern hospitality.
Right.
But as far as cross-cultural stuff, I think it's
More acceptable in the North.
My parents just moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and they told me they see interracial couples all the time.
Wow.
A lot of black guys with white chicks.
It also states in the passage that the studies have shown that more single white women than single white men have reported that their most recent sex partners were black. It also states that few whites have taken a loss because interrelationships have been balanced. Of course, because let me get this right. It states that 72% consists of white husbands. It states that 72% of the white population are dated or married into Asian Americans, and that it shows that the white American has basically been balanced because not white guys, but the white society dates Asian Americans, and the white women, I don't mean to say it like that, but white women are basically dating the black Americans. So basically, the white society is not really taking a loss because it's basically pretty much balanced. But on the other hand, the Black Americans or African Americans are taking loss because there are Black women that are looking for mates, but the majority of the Black Americans are dating different other races, if y'all get what I'm saying. Do y'all? Okay. So basically, most of the races, the white society is pretty much balanced. They really don't have a problem with dating different races. Yeah, I got a question. Do you think, since there's a problem, do you think that Black American women and Asian American males should hook up to date? Since they're the majority of the people.
To do what?
Date.
Each other?
Yeah. Black guys.
What do you say?
I said, the question is, do you think, since there's a problem since left out, trying to find mates, also the Asian American males are pretty much left out, do you think the two should hook up?
You mean like have a match party or something?
No, I'm just saying as a majority. Yeah, start looking at it as far as dating each other since the white society are dating.
I don't think they should or shouldn't. I don't think they should or shouldn't, but they can hook up if they want.
Okay, I got one more other question. Knowing that how society is right now, knowing that your kids, if you date another race, or you have kids by if you end up marrying someone from another race, and knowing that your kids may have problems growing up, would you take that in consideration as far as marriage and then having kids from someone from a different race, a different religion?
Up, that's just going to be their thing, that they're going to be teased for being biracial, but everyone gets teased for something. So all kids have to deal with that. I don't think it's that much of an issue that people should say, oh, we shouldn't get married and have kids because our kids will be biracial. Big deal. They're going to get teased for something. They're going to have to learn how to deal with people saying things about them.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty much it. So, thank you.
I'm Brother Dave Radisay. I went over the U.S. Supreme Court report over the Richard Perry Loving case versus Virginia. And this really isn't an article, it's just like a report about what happened. And what happened was a couple, it was a white man and a black woman. They lived in Virginia, and Virginia has laws against interracial marriages, or at the time they did. So what they did, they went to the District of Columbia, and they got married real quick, tried to go around the loophole, and came back to Virginia. But when that happened, they basically got convicted for having an interracial marriage, and they went to court, and the court convicted them for, sentenced them to a year in jail, because they have banned on interracial marriages. Now, of course, they fought. They instead of sentencing them right away, they waited 25 years for some reason. They said they wanted to wait 25 years for things to clear up, but they were going to sentence them after 25 years. And before them 25 years was up, they went to the regular court in Virginia, and they denied them. Then they went to the Supreme Court of the United States, and they reversed the conviction because they said that was against the 14th Amendment. And the 14th Amendment basically states that it states that you can't discriminate against race, no matter what, marriage, anything, selling stuff, anything. You can't discriminate against race, whatever. So basically they kept fighting, and when they finally got everything taken care of, they won their battle. They were able to stay together, but it was a long time. This occurred in about in the 1960s, and they had to fight a few years for it to get taken care of. It's really short, it's just a report, so all I have is questions, really. Is that good enough?
You have a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, you know how, like I said, they left Virginia, right, and they went to District of Columbia to get married? So really they didn't get married in Virginia. It's just like they just moved, right? Do you think they should have got in trouble for moving to Columbia? Back to Virginia, even though they stayed in Virginia before. Do you think that was constitutionally all right, or whatever you want to call it? Anybody have any comment on that whatsoever? Anybody? Somebody. I'm not bad.
So what are you saying? You're saying they should have illegally gotten married in Virginia and faced the music versus...
Were you asking if they should have got arrested and in trouble for moving back to Virginia after getting married?
They did kind of cheat the system, because all they did was just leave real quick, get married, and come back.
Well, sometimes you have to do that, don't you, when the system's too slow?
Yeah, but just because you get married in DC doesn't mean you're not married anywhere else. I mean, you get married
True.
anywhere, you get married anywhere.
So you think they should have got in trouble?
It was a stupid law to begin with.
At that time, do you think it was right for them to get in trouble? I mean, because it was against the law to have an interracial marriage in Virginia.
Well, that's against the law.
I don't think we could answer that question because we were like raised nowadays, and that was like too far ago to understand what was going on back then as far as racial.
But at the time, personally, I feel that. I mean, they left the state. I feel like they left the state. They knew how the thing was. They knew how Virginia was at the time. By them coming back, they already knew they were going to go through some problems. I mean, go through some trials and tribulation. I mean, everything at the end was good. But I mean, it's not like if they expected to come back and everything just be roses and everything, and they were tripping because I wasn't gonna happen. But I mean, nowadays, it's cool. You can get married. Still a little bit of talk, gossip. Some people don't like it. Some people they still try to get past that phase. But hey, we're doing good. Yeah.
Great job. Great. Thanks.
That's all I got.
Good. Thank you. Y'all did another great job. Y'all done a good job, all of y'all, just the whole class. The other one is, when I was in college, I couldn't get a date in a woman's prison with a handful of paroles. You have to think about that one. I'm sorry. Okay, we're going to talk about stereotypes now. I've got some stereotypes. Last year I was asked to speak to the, what's the organization on campus that talks about, where it's sororities for minority groups. What's that called?
Council of Ethnic Organizations.
Say it again?
Council of Ethnic Organizations.
Yeah, Council of Ethnic Organizations. I was asked to go speak to them last year. Was anybody there when I spoke? Thanks a lot for the support. But anyway, people handed out these stereotype things. And one of them this is from Russian and Spanish teenagers have had little exposure to American stereotypes, little exposure to American, but they have these stereotypes made from movies, TV shows, and celebrities. And here's some of the stereotypes Russian and Spanish teenagers have. American men like to wear short, sleeveless T-shirts to show off their physiques. American women are either unusually fat or unusually thin, never a normal build. This is what they see. Women in the U.S. wear a lot of makeup. You think that's true? Yeah. All the guys go, yeah. Most Americans, they believe, either live in skyscrapers or on farms. Everyone in the big city has a large car like a Cadillac, but outside the city, most people travel on horseback. That's what Russian and teenagers from... another one is Americans divorce repeatedly and have very complicated private lives. Just from the media. And then it's saying, in marriages in U.S., the wife always dominates. Is that true? That's not a stereotype, but maybe it is. American cities are so dangerous that a person has a good chance of being killed in the street. Therefore, American men either know kung fu or carry a gun. Now think about the TV shows they're always watching. Stuff like that. Another one is typical American is very rude, often putting his feet on the desk or table and frequently belching in public. He yawns a lot, never trying to hide it. In international affairs, as in personal life, Americans do whatever they want to and they don't care what other people think. Ouch. And then another stereotype is America is intellectual. In this sense, it is true that the average American has a narrower worldview than the average Russian. A couple of more. This was from the Multicultural Sorority Inc. on stereotype awareness. Here's stereotypes that we have. West Indians all like Bob Marley music. Italians have connections with the mafia. Orientals, which should be, what's the PC word? Asians, but they said Orientals are always known to be the smart ones. Hispanics, the stereotype is being called wetbacks, males always cutting grass and working when lawnmowers. Blacks, these are a few stereotypes. They say, this is from Multicultural Sorority, Inc. Blacks are known as the lawbreakers and said to be ghetto. Whites feel superior to other minorities. So there's always a little, Colombians always related to any talk about cocaine, and Muslims are related to terrorist attacks. A couple of funny ones on South Asians. South Asians are always employed in low-wage jobs such as cab drivers and convenience store clerks. While this image is perpetuated through the media, large minorities are employed in highly skilled. Another stereotype is the South Asian population is illiterate, when in fact in India, you know what their literacy population is? Near 100% in India. Another stereotype about India is that everyone is a Hindu, that Hindus rule India, which is not true at all. There's Christianity, Islam, Judaism, all over. So another one is South Asians are considered to be good at math and science. Asians are greedy, unethical, and cheap immigrants. Another stereotype. I'm just reading this, so don't send cards and letters to me. And South Asians always have arranged marriages. This is true 30 years ago. It's not so true now. And then South Asians are politically apathetic, but that's not true at all either. They're actually more involved in voting than Americans are. Oh yeah, another one is that South Asians have a dot on their forehead, which is a symbol of a third eye. That's not true, is it? It's actually signifies marital status or a fashion statement. Anyway, okay, so let me talk about stereotypes here. This is a little thing I found that was pretty good. A quote that somebody sent me on the email. This is, knowing your own darkness is the best method of dealing with the darknesses of other people. I loved writing this down because darknesses is not a word I've ever used before. It's not a word I've used. But Carl Jung said that knowing your own darkness is the best method of dealing with the darknesses of others. And then this other one here, which I talked about earlier, we're not looking at tolerating one another. Actually, this guy's a Jesuit priest, David Hollenbeck. He says, but we need to discover intellectual solidarity. And I hope that's what we do in this class, is we find that intellectually we're all have unity and connectedness, although we have different ways of expressing it. And I love that word, not tolerance, but intellectual solidarity. How can I intellectually connect with you, respecting our differences, but connect? Isn't that a neat, interesting word, better than tolerance? Intellectual solidarity seems to have some good energy. Okay, let me talk about stereotypes. And this is another question on the deal. Stereotypes are generalized images or impressions of people, places, animals, and things. It's generalized images or impressions of people, places, animals, and things. They are mental cookie cutters, or our best guess. And I love this definition. They're actually just shortcuts to understanding. Let me do this. Yeah. They're shortcuts to understanding, knowledge, and judgment. And a couple of things here. See, it's very human to stereotype. It's not bad to stereotype. It's just human. We just generalize images and impressions. They're cookie cutters, our best guess. They're shortcuts to understanding, knowledge, and judgment. Example of both stereotypes that we often find people stereotype around age. All teenagers love rock and roll and have no respect for their elders. I'm going to read a few of these right off of this. You don't have them, but I'll read. Sex. Men just want one thing from a woman. Is that a stereotype or is that true? True. All the men said true. My God. Another stereotype of race. These guys are desperate. Is race is all Japanese look and think alike. That's a stereotype. I'm just showing you how age, sex, race, religion, all Catholics love the Pope more than their own country. Vocation, all lawyers are greedy weasels. How many kind of think that about lawyers? Oh, come on, more people raise their hand. Well, as a general rule, most people think that. One person raised their hand. Okay, another one, nationality. All Germans are Nazi warmongers. Objects can be stereotypes around places. All cities are corrupt and sinful. Small towns are safe and clean. In England, it rains all the time. And things. All American cars are cheap and ineptly made. Is that true? See, it's stereotypes. And then a good house has a large lawn, a big garage, and at least 2 bathrooms. These are just examples of stereotypes, and we're just making shortcut cookie cutters about life. Okay, so what I have here next is aspects of stereotypes. And one is they can either be positive or negative. See, I'm not covering that up well, but you get it. They can either be positive or negative. Let me say a little bit about that. Positive stereotypes, for example, seeing the best in others and giving people a chance. You know, you might say, well, all freshmen are ditzy and lost and confused. Freshmen coming on campus here have their head in the clouds, can't read, can't follow instructions, poor things, they're lost and inept people. Well, that's a stereotype, isn't it? But what do we do as a result of kind of making that cookie-cutter comment? What we end up doing is we end up providing classes, social events, orientations. All these things are ways that we use as it were, a positive stereotype to actually knowing that not all freshmen are like that. But because we stereotype, we use a positive thing. And then we help the whole university by doing something like that. A negative stereotype is making rigid assumptions about groups of people. And the negative stereotypes really hold people down. And they keep ourselves and others stuck or limited. They create rigidity, fear, and a narrow life. Negative stereotypes. And really, we've looked at that here in the class, that negative stereotypes are really not fair in generalizing people. Let me give you a few more here. The second one is, these are aspects, is that all stereotypes are false. That's true. In fact, you can't generalize anything. All or some are more false than others, but we're all too individual to be categorized. Isn't that interesting? All stereotypes are false because remember, they're quick impressions. They're quick generalizations. They're making fast judgments on people, places, or things. But so they're all false. Now, some may be more false than others, but we're all too individual. Therefore, stereotypes, really, they're logically impossible. You can't make a judgment from afar about anything, good or bad, with just limited information. Although your hunch may be kind of close, but it can't be totally right on because you just don't know. Have to give people a chance. Another one is the aspect of stereotype is stereotypes express our own beliefs, values, and fears about life. They really tell you more about us than somebody else. I may say all dogs bite. Well, if I'm been bitten by dogs and I have a bad smell and they're always biting me, and I have a fear of dogs, then I'm going to assume all dogs bite when in fact they don't. Are you with me? But stereotypes express our own beliefs and values. They tell us more about us than who we're stereotyping often. See, if I fear somebody of another race or religion, it may be because I know nothing about that other race or religion. And I'm making these huge sweeping judgments. It's because I'm totally ignorant. Are you with me? So stereotypes express our own beliefs, values, and fears and truths. And often that's what makes the quick judgment. It's coming out of us. We're filling in the blanks because we don't have any knowledge of these other people or situations. You could say that about certain places to visit. Well, once you go there, you discover it's not like that, but we make these judgments. A fourth thing is that stereotypes, I put ST for stereotype, stereotypes are acquired secondhand through images without direct experience. And see, again, these are positive and negative We can make positive secondhand comments about, well, this person is just the best in the world. Well, you get to know them and you find out they're a jerk too. Or some impression without direct experience. Usually stereotypes are always secondhand because we're just going on a little bit of information that we have. And a fifth aspect of stereotypes is stereotypes are hard to change. They become ego defenses for survival. And that we get lazy. We actually get lazy in our learning. And therefore we stubbornly cling to concepts, ideas, beliefs, because they disturb us. We don't want to be disturbed. And so we get lazy, and therefore we won't change our stereotypes because we don't want to gain new information, read a book, meet some people, watch something different. So they are hard to change, and they become, let me say a little more about this one. Sometimes, and this is one of the aspects of growing up, is we idealize our parents sometimes, only seeing the good in them and not recognizing they're fallible people with their problems just like everybody else. And one of the marks of adulthood is when you accept people for who they are and not who you think they need to be. Every minister, priest, somebody we find a crack in their armor, people we idolize. Even positively, and sometimes negative. We won't give people a chance to get better because we stereotype them as bad, and it's really our own ego defenses that's hanging on. They become part of our core self and our own self-confidence, and we reinforce stereotypes, and they become entrenched in attitudes, ideas, beliefs, images of people, so we can maintain our own self-centered worldview. Okay, you don't need to know any of that for the test. The test, my last question is going to be define stereotypes. I got one more thing, and that use this page right here. Define them. You know, write that part down for the exam, and then the last one is what stereotypes teach us, and then this is part of the question, is define stereotypes, stereotyping, and then what do they teach us? And this is kind of a review of the whole class. First of all, they're a useful guide for dealing with people and situations. Stereotyping is not bad. It's good. It's a cookie cutter. It's a general thing. And it can be a very useful guide for assessing, making quick decisions about life as it comes to us. These generalizations used as a guide for dealing with people and situations. So it's a good thing. Get a little cautious. The problem is it can be very vindictive to your personal worldview. It can be limiting. But they teach us it's okay to stereotype and gain information. Second is that stereotyping limits our knowledge of others and of ourselves, and a deeper, more conscious life. So the first thing is really positively how they help us gain a view, either positive or negative, in order to make decisions. And the second aspect is that stereotyping limits us because we're not digging deeper. And if we stay with the stereotype, we may not learn about ourselves, because remember, we are what we hate, and we are what we adore. And so stereotyping, staying there, can limit us to say, well, what is it I don't like about that person or that race or that group? And what does that say about me? And it also can limit our view of ourselves and other people to have a more deeper conscious life. And then the third thing is what stereotyping teaches us. It teaches us that education and self-discovery can broaden our life and create more understanding. Education. Get the facts. Beware of condemnation before investigation. Mature people, educated people, are not so quick to condemn and judge and stereotype before they get information. Collect the information. Get the facts. Learn. Hold the tension of the opposite for a while. Stay in that difficult place and discover. Educare means to draw out. Self-discovery. It can broaden our life and create more understanding. And then the last thing I have here, Stacy, it says, risk learning and finding the epiphany. Yes, sir? This is on the test right here. These three are on the test. If you want to answer this question, is what is stereotyping and what are three things that stereotyping teaches us? And under this last one, it's to risk learning more information and find the epiphany, like the aha, I can't believe. I was so afraid and yet I discovered something wonderful. Though I didn't want to eat that strange food from that strange culture because it was moving or something. But I ate it and it turned out to be so delicious. See, that's a simple example. Let me share a story with you of something that happened to me. It's been a few years back, but I got a job at the mental health center when I first came to Houston after I was here a couple of years. Because I was white and a male, and most of the staff was black that I was working with, and there were Hispanic people that worked there. I don't think we had any Asians or Southern Asians or East Asians. But anyway, I was there about a year or so, and my friend Bertha, who was the lady that worked next to me, she'd been with the mental health center for years, and here I was, this white, idealized guy that was going to get out and change the world. And she'd always laugh at me because I had 70 schizophrenics on my caseload. Many of these are street people. And I was always trying to fix them rather than just help them and love them and help them take their medication and encourage them. I was going to, save them with all my idealism and use all my psychotherapy. She used to call it, Bertha called it my psychobabble. She'd say, little brother, I hear and they're psychobabbling those people. Why don't you just help them and make sure they take the medication and stop trying to fix them? Anyway, I was there about a year or so, and Bertha's father passed away. And on a Friday or Saturday, or Thursday or Friday, and there was a funeral in Beaumont then Saturday morning at 11 o'clock. And somehow I got up Saturday morning and I just found myself putting on my suit. And my wife said, what are you doing? And I said, well, this woman I work with, she's right next door to me. We kind of become friends. And her father passed away, and she told me the directions to the funeral. She passed it out in the office. I don't know. I just thought I'd go. And she said, well, you don't know her that well, do you? And I said, well, she's a coworker. We work together. And, to me, I like to support and connect with people I work with as a person and not just in a job. So I find myself on the road heading to Beaumont Saturday morning with a coat and tie on, kind of going, what am I doing? I don't know these people. And, this is a black woman with her family and stuff, and who am I showing up over there? And why am I doing this? That ambivalence of feeling, some of y'all have experienced that. So I finally found this place, and this church, and it's a black Catholic church in the poor section of Beaumont. And I walk in to the church, and it's full, and I sit about 4 rows into it, and I'm the only white person there. Although there's some other white people there, I think, but I discovered these are black people who look white, who are Catholic from Louisiana. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Creoles, thank you. Well, I didn't know about Creoles, so I assumed I wasn't the only white person there. There was other white people there. I later discovered that wasn't the truth. And Bertha's up there singing with her family, and they're singing in the choir, and they're this is the service getting ready to start. And I guess her daughter and son were singing, and they motioned to her, and Bertha turned and looked back, and she waves at me like this. And, I sort of felt like instead of a fly in buttermilk, like a lice in chocolate milk. Just trying to blend in, as it were, and not be so obvious. It took a minute for y'all to get that, but y'all are sharp. And so the service goes, and her daughter sings, and she gets up and sings, and her father was real old and, died of cancer and stuff. And it was just a beautiful service. It was the most incredible service. A lot of singing and great homily with the service. And I'd never been to a place like this in a black Catholic church and never been anything. And then they finish the service, and they take the casket, and it's on these rollers, and the pallbearers are walking this casket down the aisle. Actually, somebody's pushing the casket. The pallbearers are right behind them. There's about 8 men abreast, and then there's Bertha and her husband, and then the family. You know how you wait for the families to all come. And something happened that just totally blew me away. When they got to my row, Bertha stopped, and she pointed this way to me, and she said, Herb, come walk with me. And it still touches me to even think about it. And I said, yeah, I'll walk with you. Stop the procession, the recession out. And Lewis, her husband, stepped back. She put her arm in mine, and she said, thank you for coming. And I said, Bertha, it was a beautiful service. You know, your father was an honorable man. He's a beautiful man. And so we walk out the front of the church, and she turns to Lewis, her husband. She says, Lewis, I'm riding with Herb over there to the graveside. And so she goes, I said, well, Bertha, you know, I'm in my dad. My dad had died a year before, and I said, I'm in his old LTD, big old car, and wasn't clean and everything. I said, don't you want to ride in the hearse? She goes, oh, no, it's all right. So she got in my car, and she said, just get in there behind the hearse, or one of these big Cadillacs. I said, well, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't have a nicer car. Oh, it's all right. So we start driving through, and I mean, we're co-workers, so we start talking and stuff. And I said, Bertha, you really sing great. Your dad was really wonderful. And we're driving through, and I'd never been around any place like this. You know, there are people that get out of their car, take their hat off, put it over their heart to watch a funeral procession go by. It was like the whole community was involved in this. About halfway to this graveside, my muffler falls off my car. I went, oh my God, what is that? And Bertha, I said, Bertha, I don't know what, you know, this noise. And she just starts dying, laughing. She puts her head down. I said, Bertha, sit up. And she said, oh, it's all right. You fit in over here really well, you know. I said, I'm so embarrassed. Your father's funeral, my car's falling apart. I'm in the line of the hearse thing. And she goes, oh, that's all right. She said, it's fine. My daddy would love this. He'd love you. And I'm just going, oh, I'm so embarrassed. So I get to the graveside place, and we get out, and I go over, and they have this service and put the body down. And then I go over, and there's about 8 black men standing around, and somebody handed me a clothes hanger. You know what it's like to tie up your muffler without putting your feet on the ground? Your knees? No, of course I didn't. I pulled up my legs, your little white legs, my pants. I'm bending over, got my tie tucked in. I'm trying to tie this thing up to get the muffler. They're all standing around and just looking at me, you know. Actually, some guy finally helped me. So we get it tied up, the muffler. Now it's going. So Bert said, come on, we're going over to Aunt Cora's house. And I said, okay. So my car, we drive over to Aunt Cora's about half a mile away, and we come walking in. And outside, they got all of the, the men, and beer and stuff is out in the driveway, in the garage. And the women and the kids are inside in this choir singing. They sit me down and said, ooh, he's a skinny one, isn't he? And so they start feeding me this food like I've never eaten before. And I started eating it, being nice. And finally they said, we got peach cobbler when you're done. And I went, golly. So they bring peach cobbler and ice cream. I just eat, and it was just so loved, so valued. So I finished eating, and I, belch, go outside. And I'm standing out there talking to her son and these people. And all of a sudden, this old man walks up. And he had this $1,000 suit with pinstripes, and his eyes are kind of glazed over, and he's very wealthy, very tailored. And he said, son, can you sit down here a minute? And he pulled 2 chairs straight together. And our knees met. And I spent time in the office in a junior high and elementary school, so I didn't feel real comfortable. And he sits down, and he looks me square in the eyes, and he leaned forward. And I'm thinking, I have offended these people. I have done something totally wrong. This man was a millionaire who made his money in selling in a barbecue business, made a lot of money. And he brought a truck full of barbecue for these people. He leans up to me, and he said, I want to tell you something. He says, you're a really fine man. And I said, well, thank you. You don't understand. He said, you have no idea what it means to these people, all of us, especially Bertha and her family, that you would take the trouble and time to come over here and support these people in their hour of grief. And I said, well, she's a friend of mine. He says, you have no idea what it means that you would come over here. And I just wanted to meet you and tell you that you're an honorable man, and you've meant so much to this group. See? Well, you can imagine, on the way back home, I cried most of the way, because I had no idea one person stepping across the line, trying to be there, trying to do something loving and kind to another human being, stepping out of my comfort zone, how I could get this epiphany of blessing and affirmation. And that experience changed my life forever, because I'm saying it's worth taking the risk and stepping out of your role a little bit. I think we're done with the class. Thank you all very much. See you at the test coming up. Thank you.